Đốt nén tâm hương trước Phật đài, ngũ phần dân rộng đức Như Lai, cầu xin nhân loại lên bờ giác hạnh phúc bình an khắp muôn. Rô nê tăng hương Phật Đà lòng thành gửi tặng chuông bao la, cầu xin tam bảo thường gia hộ đạo pháp hoàng ông đến một. Rô nê tăng hương ta là nhớ lời diêu đức Thích Ca, cầu xin Bồ Tát cùng diễn xuất thầm giúp cho người tụng pháp. Hôm nay tại đạo tràng Cát Trân, đệ tử chúng con đi chung cặp thiệp với tất cả Phật tử cung đối Phật tiền, vì cầu đồng âm cung tụng đại thừa pháp bảo tôn vinh, tập thử công đức chuyên vì kỳ an cho thế giới hòa bình chúng ta tiêu diệt. Gia gia no âm hưởng thái bình, bát hàng tam độ câu mong giải thoát. Ngưỡng nguyện mười phương chư Phật chư Đại Bồ Tát chư Hiền Thánh Tăng tùy từ chư gia hộ. Nam mô Hương Dược Bồ Tát, Nam mô Hương Dược Bồ Tát, Nam mô Hương Dược Bồ Tát Ma. Với tâm đảnh lễ Nam mô Tận Hư Không Niết Pháp giới hóa hiện vị lai thập phương chư Phật tôn pháp hiện thánh tăng trụ tam ba. Với tâm đảnh lễ Nam mô Ta Bà Giáo Chủ Hiệu Từ Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật, tương lai hạ sanh Di Lặc Tôn Phật, đại trí văn thù sư lợi Bồ Tát, đại hạnh tổ gì Bồ Tát, Bồ Tát chư tôn Bồ Tát Linh Sơn hội thường Phật Bồ. Chí tâm đảnh lễ Nam mô Tây phương cực lạc thế giới đại từ đại bi A Di Đà Phật, đại bi Quan Thế Âm Bồ Tát, đại thế chí Bồ Tát, đại nguyện Địa Tạng Vương Bồ Tát, thanh tịnh đại hải chung.
Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to practice meditation. For the newcomers, I would like to give you some basic guidance how to meditate. Now, please be comfortable on your cushion or your chairs. Use your hands to massage the face, the neck, arms, relax, and back be comfortable before meditation session. In Buddhism, There are many ways you can meditate in order to achieve the state of one point of mind. The most effective and common method we use is following your out breath. In this method, you need to choose the touching point of your breath, usually the area around your hand or the middle part of the head. When you breathe in, mindfully acknowledge your breath as a touching point. When you breathe out, mindfully aware that your breath is untouched. But the most important advice, you need to follow your breath continuously in order to avoid the arising of the shape of thought in your mind. However, if you begin to distract from outside, when one thought has arising in your mind, don't worry. Return to the main object of meditation where your breath and touch the body. When you hear the second bell, that's the end of meditation. Once again, with your mindfulness, use your hands to massage your face, back, leg, your arm, feet, forward, and forward. Very fast. I always remind myself and you all now. When you are home, try to practice meditation every day. Early in the morning, late at night, long or short sessions, and your own convenience. However, if you do it daily, every day, with due time, you will achieve the state of one. Wisdom will be developed and happiness will follow. ngưỡng mong đại chúng linh tấn nhiễm tâm thiện tâm. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật.
Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Manjusraya, 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 Namo
In reciting the Mahaprajna Paramita or Sutra, we dedicate its merits to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the cultivating and everlasting three treasures, to the peace of the world, the peace of this temple, the strength and sound practice of its members, to the restoration and health of the natural world, its waters, plants, and creatures, and to all efforts in its service with gratitude. May this good karma be extended to all relations, and may we realize the Buddha way together.
All Buddhas, Buddhas, space and time, all Bodhisattvas, all Buddhas, Buddhas, space and time, all Bodhisattvas, all Buddhas, Buddhas, space and time, all
This
is what should be done by one who is skilled in business and who knows the path of peace. Let him be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and rusticated, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and cruel in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slight thing, not devise daily rule, which thing be practiced and in safety, may all beings be at peace. Whether little things there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omit none. The great or mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at peace. Let none receive another, as high as may be in existence. Let none do anger or ill will, which harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life the child of the mother child, so with the mother's heart, should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and outward to the depths, outward and unbounded, free from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from thousands. One should suspend this recollection.
This
It
is
is that to be the supply abiding.
by
By not holding to confuse the pre-hearted one,
and
being free from all sex desires is not one by him the door. May I be happy and well. May all come to me. May I learn from them. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn from them. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn from them. May all those who have hurt me, body, mind, or spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn from them. May all those who have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn from them. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn from them. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn from them.
gate of sweet nectar.
Being one with the Buddha in the 10 directions, being one with the Dhamma in the 10 directions, being one with the Sangha in the 10 directions, being one with all the formless forms throughout space and time, being one with our original teachers, Sangha, Buddha, Buddha, being one with the great and to Supreme Bodhisattva, being one with the Samantha Bodhisattva, being one with the great compassionate Bodhisattva, being one with the Mahaprajna Paramita, being one with the unconditioned Tathagata, being one with the boundless Tathagata, Vishnu, Krishna, and sustain us, being one with the inconceivable body Tathagata, and the metta of Brahma spring forth, being one with all Buddha, interning the water wheel of compassion.
Supplication for the raising of the Bodhi mind and vow to feed the hungry spirits.
Raising the Bodhi mind, the supreme miracle offered for the hungry spirits throughout space and time, filling the smallest particles to the largest Strike on you along with spirits in the 10 directions. Please gather here, sharing your distress. I offer you this full holding, this will restore your trust and love.
Prayer of food sharing.
I pray that one who receives this offering will return his merits to all who trust and to all creations throughout space and time. In this way they will be thoroughly satisfied.
Prayer for raising the voting mind.
I will pray that in receiving this meal or no suffering will be eliminated, and that you will be liberated so that being joyous daily on you will play in the field of the field and praising the Holy Mind and practicing the enlightened way to become the future Buddhas without any further regrets. Those who realize the way first needs not to labor on honors through prostration.
Prayer to fulfill these vows.
I will these issues to sustain me day and night and give me courage to fulfill my vow.
Prayer for transferring the merit of this practice.
In offering this meal, I pray that you keep its merits equally to all creations. In the Dharma book, please transfer the merits of this offering to the Dharma book of true reality, to unsurpassable enlightenment, and to all the Buddha
With all our love, with all our spirits, with all our might, dividing misery and suffering no longer, we vow to accomplish the way. May all creations in the Dharma world swiftly accomplish the Buddha way together.
all Buddhas throughout space and time, all Bodhisattvas, all Buddhas throughout space and time, all all Buddhas throughout space and time, all Ngày nên không đúng với Phật pháp quyền cầu mọi thế giới luôn luôn thường an ổn bằng các bước mà đi đều đem làm lời người để họ yêu họ nhiều đều được tiêu tan cả tiêu thoát mọi khổ đau đi về đại niết bàn này do tâm cơ thể bằng thương thân thủy giác thành cao cơ thể bằng đi cùng thiền định rồi trang niệm thân cao bằng thương thân thể giác thì thân cứ đôi đâu cũng thương được nam mô Cam Ni Bồ Tát Nam mô Cam Ni Bồ Tát Nam mô Cam Ni Bồ Tát Nam mô Cam Ni
Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Phục quyền tam sao chính thanh văn phạm vương đế thích chốn thiên long bát bộ pháp thần vương nhất thiết thiện thần đồng vì ung hộ hiện tiền đi chung hiệp cùng đặng chư Phật tử cùng đối Phật tiền dị khẩu đồng âm cung phụng đại thừa pháp bảo tôn kinh tập tự công đức chuyên tùy thì miễn trì an cho thế giới hòa bình chư tai tiêu diệt nghiệp chư bao chư phiền não chư tiêu trừ tâm duyên tự duyên quan trái duyên chư duyên đều giai cơ nhân dân an lạc Phật pháp trường thân thổ địa long thần an tâm hộ pháp căn nguyện trì siêu đạt đăng chư linh cứu quyền thất tổ nội ngoại tôn thân gia riêng tiền tô cô dị tỷ mỗi đăng chư linh cụ danh vô diệu dị vô danh thúc ba đệ huynh cô tỷ chư linh chiến sĩ trần phong đồng bào tư thập nhị loại cô đàn chung chư linh giấc giờ giấc dưỡng xung quanh tụ quyền ở đây thương linh xa cây xa tối xa gần đầu nằm cuối lệ nguyện chư linh lai đạo Phật trì tinh pháp văn kinh tóc xa mê độ vạn sanh tình độ thâm siêu dương thế hải yên hải thân tình giữ vô tình
Good morning. Welcome back.
So basically, the second service we have after we open. However, I believe this is the new normal for us, right? We feel comfortable. If you know very well, but you come here, the jacket have to put your mask on, and we practice meditation and check together, right? If you know today you will have another lecture coming up from St. Morris. Who the newcomers? I would like to give you the newcomer to the group. 1, 2, 3. I was surprised we had a newcomer today. So I would like, this is the way we do that. We would like to introduce you to the group from the White Sand family member. So can you share with us your name, especially how you find out White Sand? And then you make the decision to come with us and attend service today. You first, man.
Actually, I know she wanted to.
She wants you to come here. Good. We welcome you, right? And you, ma'am, why you made it? So you heard about White Sand? Where do you learn? Wow. That's good, right? We welcome all of you here, right? Laura, right? And then you. Okay, now you can share with us.
I'm Ryan and I'm a business supporter.
She is the one. Ma'am,
I usually play watching this school research but I go to a bunch of places and try to study and watch. So that's what I do.
so we welcome you. Okay.
Sometimes I come here just to look at study. So it's not my first time.
Okay, so we welcome you, right? No. Are you new or? Okay. You might be. Oh, that's fine. Moving temple in Titusville, right? I don't know if you know, we are very popular. Right? Okay. So, who next be one? You, okay.
I've been here for a minute, 2000 before. I found that there's a place called Lines of my previous state of East and I really beautiful.
And if you come to support you, then you can make that come. Okay, yeah, share with everybody here. Oh, you in and out? Yeah, that's not in and out. Okay. And you do, right?
Yeah.
And you need. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Okay. So we welcome you here, right? And you can do a new concept.
Yeah, this is my first time here. It's pretty.
What's your name, sir?
John.
John. It's nice to have you here, John. Yeah. So then we have quite a few new members here. So as you know, we have service every Sunday. If you attend in the beginning, the core service is meditation, chanting, and introduce you to the group here. And the next section is Dharma talk. I'm glad you turned the microphone over to St. and he will give us all yours, sir.
Thank you. How's everybody doing? So, you know, when everything closed down and I was doing a lot less running around to places, I started catching up on some things that had been piling up at home. And I decided I was going to get rid of a lot of stuff, including some books. And so I've been given lots and lots of books by people on Buddhism. And so I decided I would start culling through some of this. And in the process, I'm coming across things that I had set aside going, oh, I got to read this one of these days, you know. And so somebody had given me a copy of a little book about so big called Lao Fan's 4 Lessons. And I'd never heard of it before, but apparently if you're in Chinese culture, it's kind of a well-known thing. It was written by a guy named Yuan Lao Fan, who was born during the Ming Dynasty, so around 1550 Common Era in China. And he wrote the book for his son to teach him about the lessons that he had gotten that had guided his life. And I was reading this, and I was really finding it very fascinating, the way it presented some things that, you know, we talk about a lot in here. And does this book appear in Vietnamese culture? Do you know what I'm talking about? Lao Fan's 4 Lessons, that ring a bell? Maybe not. So it comes from a time in Chinese culture when Taoism and Confucianism and Buddhism were kind of all sort of on an equal plane there. And so there's a little bit of all of it in there, but of course I view it from a Buddhist perspective. But anyway, he's telling the story of how he got to hear these 4 lessons and how he put them into practice. And so it's something that I thought would be worth sharing with you. So I'll talk to you about it a little bit today and then a little bit next week too. The very first lesson is that destiny can be changed. So this word destiny, people will talk to me sometimes about destiny, and I don't find it a particularly useful term. But the way it's kind of dealt with it in here, I thought was interesting. So he met this Taoist monk named Kong, Mr. Kong. And this Taoist monk made predictions about his life. And at first, the predictions were mostly about his career, things like what examinations he would take and which ones he would pass and how he'd rank and how high he would rise in his government jobs. He had initially wanted to become a doctor, but he wasn't smart enough. And so he went to work for government instead. So I'll leave that one for you to interpret. But anyway, in order to rise through the ranks of government in the 16th century, you had to pass certain levels and then you could get certain promotions. And so Mr. Kong predicted which examinations he would pass and how he would rank and what promotions he would get. And his predictions turned out to be crazily accurate. For example, at one point he had predicted that he would get a certain promotion to a certain level after he had received 259 bushels of rice. So you got paid in rice. And so he had measured out how much rice he got. Sure enough, this one day he got offered this promotion. And he went and calculated it. And over the course of his career to that point, he had gotten 259 bushels of rice. Mr. Kong had also predicted that he would live to be 53 years old and that he would never have a son. So he had started to study meditation after this, and he realized since all of his predictions were coming true, he really stopped worrying about everything. It's like, why worry about anything when my destiny is all laid out for me anyway? And so he got kind of complacent, and as a result of getting so complacent, his mind became very calm, and he could concentrate really well because he wasn't worried about anything, right? Well, so he's going along fine, not totally happy with the way his life is turning out. Really hoped he would rise higher in government than it was predicted he would. He hoped he would have a son, and so on. But at some point, he met this Zen master, Venerable Yonggu. And so he met him at his temple, and they talked for a while, and he ended up sitting and meditating all night with this Zen master. And Venerable Yonggu was so impressed with his concentration, he realized this guy is like perfectly still for hours at a time. And so the next day, he told him how impressed he was. And so Lao Fan explained that he had gotten all these predictions and that his destiny was all mapped out for him. And so he was able to just really relax and not worry about anything. Well, the master was very disappointed hearing this. And he said, I thought there was something really special about you, but it turns out you're just a very ordinary person. Well, this is not what Lao Fan wanted to hear, that he was a very ordinary person. And so he asked for an explanation, and the Zen master explained that an ordinary person's mind is typically clouded by a lot of aimless thoughts, worries and ruminations and things like that. And that as a result of this, an ordinary person's life gets bound up by destiny. So let's talk about this destiny idea for a little bit. Sometimes people will come up to me and say, don't you think maybe this is my destiny? Well, the Buddha didn't really buy into this idea of destiny very much. There was a view in India when the Buddha lived that what happened to you in the present life, and even where you would go in life, was predetermined on the basis of what happened in your previous life. And so there was pretty much predestination. You were born into a certain social class. They had the caste system back then already. And, if you died young or whatever, it was a result of previous karma. And there was nothing you could do to change that because it was all predetermined. And the Buddha kind of examined this and said, yeah, this doesn't really ring true to me. And so the Buddhist view on karma is that you come into this moment based on past karma, but where you go from here, even within the context of this life, is based on present karma and even future karma, because you can do things in the future. If you walk out of here today going, wow, I've got some bad habits I want to break, and then you put in the effort of breaking those bad habits, then your future is going to be affected by what you do tomorrow. So, but there's a level where this idea of predetermination can be somewhat relevant, because we get very habituated to our preconceptions and to our self-identities. So in the opening incense offering, you heard it in Vietnamese today, but basically you're saying, precepts, samadhi, which is concentration, meditation, wisdom, liberation of views. So these are things we're trying to attain. Freedom from our views. So if we don't change our views, we're going to tend to replay the same patterns of coming and going over and over again. It's difficult to give up views. It may be the hardest thing to give up. Is a lot of our ideas. And so we can get really hung up on them. But this is part of the meaning of the not self characteristic. One of the main teachings of Buddhism is that we don't have a self as such. There's nothing that is sort of etched in stone that is us. No essence of me that exists from one moment to the next. What we identify with are a lot of processes that are constantly changing. So, but we tend to connect to something and call this me. And so we identify ourselves with some aspect of our character, not realizing that this self is an illusion of our own construction and something that we maintain by keeping our views bound up in what our self is. This came up Thursday night. So Thursday night, I do a sort of a study group format meeting on Zoom. And you're all welcome to come. You can email me. I'll give you the link. But the subject of politics came up. And I'm not going to get political here, but somebody brought up, how they couldn't understand how a friend could feel a certain way or whatever. and how they could stay loyal to a certain idea when it appeared to be so harmful. So once we commit to something, once we say, this is me, I'm not going to say current political parties, say I'm a Bull Moose Party guy. I don't think there's any Bull Moose Party people still around. Maybe. For those of you who are not into American history, Teddy Roosevelt got disenchanted with who was a famous politician in the 19th century, got just disenchanted with his political party and started his own and said he was as strong as a bull moose, so he was going to have the Bull Moose Party. So anyway, you could identify, I'm a bull moose. And then it's very difficult once you've done that, and once you've told other people that this is what you are, to untangle yourselves from this idea. And so we can find ourselves coming up with ways to rationalize doing some pretty harmful things because we have convinced ourselves that we're connected to this good thing. And so this is how things like the Holocaust happen. You started to buy into this ideology and identify with a certain point of view, and you can, over time, get farther and farther from what your true values are, what your Buddha nature wants from you, right? Which is because you can easily cloud your views with these mistaken ideas. And so this is true of religion and stuff too. I mean, having views is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, to want to practice Buddhism for the sake of liberating all beings is a view, is one that I happen to identify with. But at some point, even that you have to transcend. So, but if you attach to wrong views, almost never does anybody have this sudden epiphany when the truth is revealed and they go, oh, that guy's lying. I guess I have to rethink my position from the last umpteen years. You know, not very many people have the strength to say, let me go back and start over. It's a lot more comfortable to go along little by little. But when you start to practice this way, Buddhism, you start to realize some of my views lead to suffering. And let me relinquish those and find views that lead to happiness and freedom. So this is why this idea of liberation of views is so important. We don't even want to get bound up in our views about Dharma because we want to be able to find our own wisdom and do our own practice. Anyway, so doesn't mean don't have any habits. Just be careful which habits you cultivate. If a habit's really easy to maintain, that's probably one you might want to consider dropping, right? The ones that are really going to get you someplace, usually you have to put some effort into. So this Zen master is kind of explaining this, and he says ordinary people get bound up by their destiny, but there are some people who can't be bound by destiny. People who cultivate great virtue, for example. So Lao Fan wonders, are you saying that I can change my destiny? And he quotes Mencius, who was a Confucian scholar, who said, whatever is sought can be attained. The seeking is within ourselves. He said, but I thought that had to do with things like virtue and integrity. Can you actually change your life this way? And the Zen master says, yes, we can actually do more than just cultivate a certain state of mind. And he quotes the sixth patriarch of Zen, and he says, all fields of merit are within one's heart. If one seeks from the true mind within, one can be in touch with all of one's wishes. The problem, he says, is that people seek happiness through outside sources. He says you have to reflect inside your own heart. But if instead you just blindly seek fame and fortune and things like that from outside, then that's going to be a problem for you. You're going to stay tied up in your own stress. He says, in doing so, you might lose inner purity in what you were destined for, and so the seeking be in vain. So they talk for a while, and this master says, what do you think it is? What is it that you want that you don't think you can have? And so he's telling him, well, I'd like to live longer than age 53. I'd like to have a son, stuff like that. He says, well, how do you think you might be sabotaging that? what is you might be doing what are shortcomings do you have that maybe won't get you where you want to go? And then he tells him what he has to do to transcend his destiny. He says, cultivate virtue and tolerance and regard others with goodwill and compassion. And we talk about this all the time in Dharma talks, and we pray about it, and goodwill and compassion. The Metta Sutra is all about that and everything. And he's saying this can literally change your life, literally change where you would have ended up. It says, live as if everything in the past dissolved yesterday and a brand new future begins today. And if you can accomplish that, you're a person born anew, a person of virtue and sincerity. And then he says, if you want to change your destiny, develop virtue, practice goodness, accumulate hidden merits and virtues. He said, if you do that, you're not going to be bound up by these predictions anymore. So Lao Fan is skeptical of this, but he decided he would give it a try. And so he did something that was kind of profound. He wrote down all of his faults and shortcomings, all of the things that he thought might be keeping him from transcending his sort of predetermined pattern. And he confessed them all to the Buddha. And he offered incense and made prostrations, just like we do when we come in here. Okay? Except you probably don't walk in and give up all your shortcomings, but maybe you should. Right? And then he made a vow, and he vowed he would perform 3,000 good deeds. So that sounds like a lot, but if you think about what a good deed might be, you can do this. And so he made this vow, and then Master Yungu taught him this a mantra and explained that in order to do this and really do it sincerely, you have to proceed with a pure mind. And so he gave him this thing to practice. It's called the Kundi Dharani. So Dharani is like a passage that may or may not have any real meaning. So when we chant the Heart Sutra, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhe, Svaha, that's sort of a Dharani. That actually does translate. But when you translate the Sanskrit words into English, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's kind of got a lot of meaning in it, but it sort of has to be unpacked in your heart. Does that make any sense? So he taught him this mantra that's kind of like that. It's Namo Saptanam Samyak Sambuddha Kotanam Tadyata Om Kale Kule Kundi Svaha, which means something like I revere 70 million Buddhas. And then there's these sort of words that are meaningful but don't really translate. Om is a good example. Everybody's familiar with the word Om, right? It's a word that doesn't really mean anything, but it has a lot of spiritual significance. And so he tells him, go and practice this. So you could really do anything, any meditation that has the capacity to purify your mind will work. You want to do kindness out of a sense of having a pure heart. That's really the objective of this. It can't be transactional. If you're saying, I'm going to do this good thing, I'm going to get paid real, right? Or I'm going to do this good thing, I'll get so much merit. Then it's kind of messing with it. You have to purify your mind so you purify your intentions. Anyway, so he starts practicing. And he starts doing good deeds and meditating on this Dharani. And he said, soon I started feeling very different. In the past, I had been careless and without self-discipline. And now I find myself being naturally watchful and conscientious. Now, what happens when you go from being careless and with no self-discipline to being watchful and conscientious? Your life starts to change, doesn't it? Right? And so he says he maintained this attitude all the time, even when he was alone. So not just, when somebody was looking. And he said, when I encounter people who dislike or slander me, I bear their insults with a patient, peaceful mind and don't be compelled to quarrel with them. So he's already changing his life, the experience of life that he has, because by reacting to adversity with calmness, by reacting to adverse people with patience and peacefulness, you're already creating a lot less stress in your life. So he did the 3,000 good deeds. It took several years. And after he did that, he did another 3,000. And then he finally decided he would do 10,000. He was getting all these benefits. He was getting promotions that he wasn't supposed to get. And these kinds of things. His wife was so impressed by this that she started doing good deeds of her own. She was illiterate, but she would make a little red circle on a calendar anytime she did a good deed. And so she could count them up, and he would see that she had some days filled up her days of her calendar with little red circles. And she'd do things like buy food to give to the poor, or buy live animals at the market and release them, set them free. So as I said, Mr. Kong, the Taoist monk, had predicted that Lao Fan would only live to the age of 53 and have no son. So he wrote this book, Lao Fan's 4 Lessons, for his son at age 69. Okay? He realized he had lived that long. He had actually gotten sick when he was 53, but he had survived it, and he had had a son and all of that. So I'll tell you very briefly what the 4 lessons are, but I'm going to come back to them a little bit more in depth next week. But the first lesson was that you can change your destiny, and you can do that by living a virtuous life. The second lesson explains how to reform your life. The third are all the different ways you can cultivate kindness. And the fourth is the benefits of humility. So like I said, I'll tell you more about this next Sunday. But in the meantime, you might want to try putting this into practice. I was reading this, and like I said, a certain amount of skepticism. The idea of destiny doesn't really fit into my views particularly well. And the idea that you could do something and that it will somehow magically change your life doesn't really fit into my views very well. But the thing is, this is not like a secret. It's not like one of the science of mind things or the think and grow rich thing or whatever. And not that those are bad. There may be some good advice in some of those things. I don't know. I don't read them. But I was asking myself, would this work? Would this change what you might consider to be your destiny? So the thing is, our experience of life is largely a matter of how skillfully we pay attention to what's going on. There's reality, and then there's our experience of reality. So I'll give you a personal example. Friday night, about 3:30 in the morning, I'm awakened by this loud sound, a loud crash. I mean, like seriously loud, like a plane crashing on the roof of the house kind of loud. And I start up and I go out, and the dogs are barking like crazy, and all that. So I get a flashlight, I go outside, and a tree had fallen on the house. Now we have this really big red cedar out back. I mean, a big old tree, probably 50, 60 years old, very high tree. And I thought the whole thing had come down when I first shined the flashlight out there. I mean, it looked like this whole tree was there. And then I realized, no, the tree was still up, but it was some really big lower branches. I mean, talk about branches like this big around. And they had come down on the roof right over my bed. So, that's reality. Tree fell on my house, right? But there are possible different stories you could tell as a result of that reality. I could talk about what a horrible event that was and what an awful night I had and how I didn't get enough sleep and I was going to have to spend all this money and all this kind of stuff. People who, if something like that happened, this would be a week's worth of drama. Don't you know people like that? Right? Or you could go, wow, I've got some real reasons for gratitude here. For one thing, I got a new roof on the house a few years ago, but I got a roof that the roofers promised me would live longer than I will. It's a metal roof, so it didn't come through my roof and kill me. And I have a good friend who's a master gardener for Volusia County, and she had just had some tree work done, so she gave me a reference for somebody that she thought would be really good. And I got hold of them. The guy showed up. This was Saturday morning. They showed up early. They got the worst of it off of my house. There were no holes in my roof. it's not going to be cheap getting it cut up and hauled out of there, but at least, you know, I'm not going to have the extra expense of having a new roof or anything like that. The tree is going to be able to be saved. It's a beautiful tree, and it seems to be pretty healthy, except for the branches that fell off, and they're not there anymore, so we don't have to worry about them. So the same tree, same night, same house, same event, but it could be very different experiences based on how you are working in the world, right? So there are things that could have been different. You know, fortunately, I don't squander money, so I have the resources. I have reliable friends that can make good recommendations. All of those are a result of how I live my life, right? So anyway, I was very impressed by this book and Lao Fan's 4 Lessons. So I decided I would make a vow relating to acts of kindness. And if you want to test this, maybe you can do the same, and you can tell me how it's going for you. I'll talk a little bit more about what it means to be kind next week, but you can work on that between now and then if you'd like to. So thank you very much. I appreciate your attention.
Thank you, that's good. Any questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question, but it's very interesting that, you know, your talk today was about this, because I have been going on YouTube and I listen to a lot of different teachers, and I just take away whatever I think is, you know, it's going to help me. And I discovered one last night, and that was the subject. That was exactly what he was saying. And this morning, as I was driving here, I will wait to go. I listened to some more. And over here, and you present the same.
6 things, right? 6 things.
Oh, good.
Everything coming together, but it's beautiful, because like it was more of a aha moment for me. Okay.
Cool. Who was the teacher who was talking about this?
Oh, my goodness. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. I was just curious.
I haven't heard him before, and so, and last night I was listening to him, and then I was in and out. But he's actually monastic Buddhism. No, I'm sorry, secularbuddhism.com. That's his podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I know who that is. I think that's a colleague, but I can't remember who. Does he have a podcast?
Yes, that's what I was listening to. Yeah.
There's a couple of people that I know that have similar secular Buddhism. I'll have to look that up.
Okay. Well, thank you.
That's good.
Yes.
The student? Do you have questions? I think the topic today is prayer to lead them, right? So if you want to go home and listen to this tape again, I think it will become, you put on YouTube.
Yeah, so it should be streaming now.
You can,
He says it's streaming now. And these live streams stay up for a while.
Any other comment, question? Carol, no? We happy to hear your story. So you have a good attitude. Oh, wow. So we think, we have some announcement today. I would like to invite my name and my police officer.
Okay, just ordered some new masks. They're actually very beautiful masks. They're double layered. You have a locust flower on them. And started taking the orders to these right now. I think they'd like to have one. Absolutely gorgeous. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we want to have a garage sale on the 5th, so the 6th and 7th of November. That's right after the newsletter comes out. And we're asking for donations of merchandise that will sell. If you didn't want to buy it, don't bring it. So, if it can bring some quality, it can be used, it can be whatever, but it should be quality merchandise. I think we're gonna have a good sale, bring in some dollars for the temple and probably the gift shop as well.
What date did you say?
Are you gonna put it on your webpage?
We made, the date is
So you're not
6.
putting the garage sale notice on the webpage?
Yeah, on the webpage.
Thank you.
This is clothes, anything like
Or
that?
anything, you know, you got hard goods, soft
Oh,
clothes, whatever you can bring in and donate to us. Just want to make sure it's in pretty good shape. The other thing I want to mention is that, every week we chant the Heart Sutra. Now, some of us have chanted it for years, doesn't know what it means. We just get up here and start chanting. But in our gift shop, our abbot, ITN, has written a booklet that explains the Heart Sutra. Breaks it down into 7 easy paragraphs. Everybody can read it, understand it, and know what they're saying when they're chanting. So this is a little booklet sold in the gift shop for $10.
For the newcomer, Kai Tian is our master. He is the founder of the temple. Now he's working on another temple in Dallas, but you know his focus around here, we have the gift shop.
So the other thing I'd like to mention is since St. Morrison's retreat, and you may want to take over from here since St. Morrison, and mention your retreat is going to be on the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th.
Yeah, let me turn it. So, yeah, coming up in November, we'll have a session. We'll do these in conjunction with Brevard Zen Center. And I'm actually not the teacher. I get to come along for the ride, which is kind of a luxury for me. Jim Ginjo Gallagher, who's the head monk at Brevard Zen Center, does the teaching. But it's a Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning retreat. And if you want details, you can email me or just talk to me afterward, and I'll get your contact information. But it's limited to 20 people. I think because of COVID, I'm more concerned about getting enough people than getting too many people this time around. We probably can't do it if we don't get at least 10 people registered. So if you're interested, please let me know.
Okay, you have to, 10?
10, yeah. So anyway, let me know. It's, these are, I mean, you get a really good opportunity to work on your meditation very intensively during that period. I'll talk to you about the schedule next week, but you'll get several hours a day where you can meditate. You get one-on-one meetings with Jim.
You change your destiny, right? Change your destiny.
Yes, absolutely. Change your life, for sure. Okay.
All right, no, any other comment, question? Newcomer? No? So hopefully we will see you back here, right? Next Sunday. That's the way we'll give another lecture. Anything else? You have to come, put it up on, do you have to do something separate? Amen? Good. Well, the newcomer, they see we call the signature song of White
Oh, you want it?
And everybody, yeah, we have to go to separate. We will have, you got you brought it yourself. If we don't have it, we sing it out. You have, yeah. Sing along, that's not true. Who knows how to sing this song? Sing loud. Sing along. Right? Right? You listen, I know. Do you have it? You have the audio?
You need a song.
You don't have it? The audio song, do it for you.
If you don't have anything, okay? I heard we had a new gift shop last week, we ran opening last week. And I heard the whole week is the more people visiting gift shop, right?
Oh, I
So thank you for your work.
have a dual phone. You want to turn that on?
We, so this is the song we recorded with Sally and she was here. I feel happy over my eyes. I feel happy over my eyes. I feel happy because I have you in me. Whenever I feel happy. Whenever I sin, I feel happy. Whenever I feel happy. Because I have you so deeply. Thank you very much. Let's have lunch together and we see you all next week. I know that we will have a big study and healthy week, right? We're not going to, Vice and Denver has really well during the pandemic. And I wish we all would do well forever. Right? Oh,